right now video games in some ways is still in its, I won't say infancy, but it's almost a teenager in terms of where it is in its development cycle. It's now starting to get mainstream entertainment and not just a bunch of kids that sit in their basement and have no lives and play video games.
When I was younger, around like 6 or so, I got a Super NES, and I got Duck Hunt, and I loved the gun, the laser gun, and I was obsessed with it, and it all took off from there.
Well, I don't know, I'd always heard like my boyfriend talking about them and how much fun they were, and my parents actually didn't let me have any video game systems when I was a kid, and because they thought they weren't active, so I started playing them on the computer.
I think it just starts with what you're interested in. I've always been a fan of like fantasy and sci-fi, so one day I was just thinking about what I thought would make a good game, and it just blossomed into a concept.
Well, you need the kind of story that just like usually it would be you and you'd be fighting a much greater power, because that's what keeps you hooked, like the idea of rebellion and like actually like taking down the man.
Well, there's the biological factors, which is the adrenaline rush, cortisol is released. There's a lot of chemistry involved in video game play. And again, the dopamine release, and dopamine is actually a neurotransmitter that is associated with addiction.
We may then target the concept a little bit, bring together a focus group to say, hey, we were thinking about making one of these 5 different games, what do you think? Or we'll do a little bit of preliminary investment work to come up with some screenshots or a little bit of gameplay that even if we don't end up using it for one specific game, we could use for a different game.
Well, we talk to our friends quite often about it, because I mean we talk amongst ourselves every day about what we think is cool. We start believing that no matter what, it's an awesome concept. You really have to talk to people outside of your business and of your idea to get them engaged and see if they actually like it.
Like in certain games, like in most Final Fantasy games, actually, you'll start and it'll be like you're by yourself or with a few people, and you'll have to gain more people. And then once you have like a big enough army, you can actually take on the greater power and take it down.
We want choices that you make in the game to affect the game later on without really telling you what's going to happen.
Make them challenging, but not necessarily impossible. Nobody wants a game that's never going to be finished, because at some point people are going to get frustrated and give up.
A mix between competitiveness and make-believe is what a person usually would buy a game for. Like, if I see a game, I usually buy it for the single player, just because I like intense storylines and stuff. But if let's say it's like on PS3 or 360, once I'm done with it, I'm just done with it. Like, it's like you usually won't play it again, so competitiveness will keep you playing the game. So a mix between the two is like perfect balance.
Again, I think it depends on the audience. I think some people really like the competition, and they say, okay, how can I play against somebody? How can I beat somebody? How can I collect as much stuff? And stuff depends on which game you're playing. And how am I going to win this game? And that's what they care about. For other people, it's really more the interaction within the game. They like being part of a team. They like knowing that when they go online or when they get together with their friends, they're all working together to try to accomplish some goal.
All the stories are probably the best. I mean, the reason that I like them is because at least you can, like, you're basically insured to have a plot line, where with first-person shooters it can be kind of iffy, like Gears of War doesn't have anything. It's not really a storyline game. It's just, but with Mass Effect it's like, you have this whole all sorts of things, and anything could happen, sort of, like, I don't know, it's fun.
Stand by, shore party. Decontamination in progress.
I don't think video games can influence people in real life any more than books can, than movies can. I think video games today is an easy scapegoat for some people to say this is what's wrong in society. The same way rock and roll was years ago, the same way that books are, the same way that movies were before they started with a rating system.
Yeah, I think the difference for video games is that the player becomes a part of the plot and is impacting the plot, and then the more exposure that we have to anything, not just by the video games, the more exposure we have to anything, we have less sensitivity to it.
Well, for a while I was taking a break from them. I don't know, I just never really played, but recently, like the last few weeks, I've played maybe like a couple hours a week.
It's like child's play to me. Like if I was sick and not home, I might play around that much time in video games. I play way more games than that, and a day, I will usually come home from school, like on a school day, I'll come home at 2:30, then at 3 o'clock I'll get on, and I usually won't get off until like 6 when I'll eat dinner, and then I'll get back on and play until like 12. So that's a good chunk of time right there. I'm more than an active gamer.
We don't have a specific guide that says, you know, he or she needs to play X number of hours a week, things like that. We kind of know which games we make, and Grand Theft Auto is certainly a great example of a game that has a really loyal following and is typically bought by more hardcore gamers.
Video game addiction definitely exists. I know that there are clinics for it and everything, and I have met some people online who were addicted to video games and they had to stop playing. They're not allowed to play anymore. So it does exist, definitely, yeah.
I do think it could be a matter of time. Again, it's a matter of functioning. You know, there are a lot of people, maybe this is why it's hard to diagnose, a lot of people that can play video games on a daily basis and not be addicted to it and not be problematic.
I've heard of it. I'm not sure that I really believe in it. I don't think there is a physical dependence that people have or absolute need to play video games.
I mean, I think it exists, but I think it exists everywhere. I mean, the addiction, I wouldn't blame the gaming for the addiction. I'd blame addiction as like the root cause. Where people can be addicted to anything.
But in video games in general, I think I'm on the fence. I don't think I'm addicted, but I'm really, really, really into them.
If that's what you want to do, then yeah, I suppose it's an addiction in that sense. But I think most people are relatively able to balance playing games and getting their homework done and spending time with their family and friends.
I don't think I could get addicted to a video game because I play so many all the time, like I keep switching.
However, I do think that there is a growing number of people that it's now starting to serve all psychological needs for and create the isolation. So, I would think it would just be a matter of time before that would be recognized.
It's our philosophy that EA and Activision Blizzard are kind of destroying the gaming industry because they produce maybe 20 titles a year and only one is successful. And just this fall, because of their losses, they lost $800 million this quarter. They had to fire 2,500 employees, which is, I mean, they buy companies like Pandemic and BioWare, and when they don't produce, they fire everyone. It's just not good for the gaming industry.
I would tell them to stop, I don't know how to say this without cursing. Stop half-assing your games. Like, so many games are coming out now that have graphics that should have been in games in like the 90s, and they would be great games, but you can't look at them and feel like they actually put work into them. Like the game everyone's heard of, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Now most people don't know this, but at least in Call of Duty Modern Warfare, it had the same almost exactly the same graphics as Call of Duty 2. They didn't change anything about it almost. Modern Warfare 2, they did make changing in lighting and some things. But you gotta really try if you want people to be impressed by them. Like there was recently they took out dedicated servers for PC gaming on Modern Warfare 2, which means that like in PC games you usually get you get the choice of what server to pick, but on consoles like PS3, 360 you have to just like press find game and it'll find one for you. So picking your own is like really nice. They took it out. So in retaliation, over $7 million worth of the game was pirated instead of bought. And I'm happy to say I pirated it too.